Good evening. You're watching 5 Live. I'm Gaurav Sawant. We are getting you the latest in investigations in the Delhi car blast case. Where was Dr. Muhammad Umar in the hours before the blast? He ran away from the university the moment his colleagues were taken into custody, whether it's Dr. Adil, Dr. Muzammil, Dr. Shaheen, and a number of other doctors. But he wasn't taken into custody. He switched off his mobile phone, he dumped his mobile phones, got into his car and sped off. Where did he go? Now, the agencies have painstakingly been looking at CCTV cameras, using artificial intelligence, and there's a lot of information that's now coming out in public domain. And India Today gets you that exclusive information, Dr. Muhammad Umar's movement from the university in Faridabad in Haryana. So the terrorist Dr. Muhammad Umar, according to the police, is a suspect as of now. Of course, he was killed in the blast. His vehicle loaded with explosives was seen passing through a toll booth within Haryana in a place called Firozpur Jharka, and this is in the Nuh area of Haryana. He then travelled to the Mewat region. This is in the early hours of the 10th before he entered Delhi the day of the blast. Now, the ammonium nitrate, the fertilizers that were used in the explosives, were purchased in Mewat before the blast and before Dr. Muzammil was taken into custody. So one image that you see, now that's a local toll booth in Mewat region of Haryana. He travelled to Nuh, he travelled to Mewat. Was he meeting people? Was he getting some details? Was somebody assembling that improvised explosive device for him in that very notorious Mewat Nuh region of Haryana? I quickly want to cut across to India Today's Shreya Chatterjee, who joins us with the latest on the investigation. So Shreya, the agencies have been able to piece together his movement. We know what he did, or at least parts of it, once he entered Delhi at 8 in the morning or around 8 in the morning. But where was he through the night? What details can you tell us?
Well, Gaurav, with this new CCTV that India Today has now accessed, we can say that all the CCTV map movements of Umar Unnabi is with India Today, and this one is of the Firozpur Zirka Toll Plaza, which is in the Nuh region of Haryana. This is the portion of Mewat that falls in Haryana. This is where he was seen zooming past at midnight on 10th of November. So this is the time he's absconding when those raids are being carried out, because remember, on 9th and 10th there were subsequent raids carried, and in those timeline we saw the recovery of the ammunition to the tune of 2,900 kgs that were done. By that time, Umar Unnabi was already underground, because he had been alerted at the time when the arrest of the Nogam cleric and Muzammil took place simultaneously on 27th of October and 30th of October, and that's when he goes absconding. And this CCTV captures his movement on the 10th of November midnight at Firozpur Zirka, after which he did enter the national capital. We have all those trails of him, but this is of Mewat. Remember, the another Mewat connection is of that fertilizer that was gathered from the Pinangua village of Nuh. NIA has already detained the owner of that fertilizer shop as well, from where it is being said that Muzammil, Dr. Muzammil, was the one who actually procured those ammonium nitrate, the NPK fertilizers.
You know, that's very interesting. Dr. Muzammil, Dr. Muhammad Umar, Dr. Adil, Dr. Shaheen, Dr. Ansari, some of the other doctors who've now been taken into custody from Jammu and Kashmir, they almost seem to be working in a synchronized manner. It's almost as if everybody had their task cut out. Dr. Muzammil went and procured the ammonium nitrate, and this new Mewat belt, it's an agrarian belt. There are lots of farmers around. So do we know whether they said they were doctors, they were procuring this ammonium nitrate? Do we know how they procured ammonium nitrate in such large quantities, 2,900 kilograms?
Well, Gaurav, right now what the investigators are suggesting that these were actually procured from the local fertilizers shops. Now, NPK is a common fertilizer that contains, if I'm not wrong, 40% of ammonium nitrate. Now, from that, it needs to be extracted is what we do understand. And probably that's the reason, Gaurav, why doctors were selected. These were individuals who knew the know-how of how to misuse chemical reactions to create a terror blast, and that's the reason we see these doctors procuring the ammonium nitrate fertilizers from these local shops. But bigger question, Gaurav, the reason these people of the shop, the owners, are now being detained because as per the ammonium nitrate rules 2012, you cannot sell ammonium nitrate without someone having the license to buy the same. So there are rules that were flouted, and that's the reason the NIA is now sweeping down, because not a regular thing to be sold to anyone.
There's a big
goes,
story
and
coming.
that
Stay
too
with
in a
me. Stay
quantity
with me.
we're
There's a
talking
very
about
big story
2,000.
that's coming in, and that shows there is clear and present danger even now, not just in the national capital region, but beyond. The Delhi police has just issued an advisory. The Delhi police in its advisory says, and I want to quote, in view of the heightened security arrangements in the national capital, all passengers are advised to reach railway stations, metro stations and airports well in advance. If you have a train to catch, keep an additional 1 hour before the scheduled departure time of the train, because there is additional checking before people are permitted inside railway stations and railway trains. If you have a metro to take, an additional 20 minutes, factor an additional 20 minutes before you can enter the metro station. If you have to get to the airport, and this could even mean for a domestic flight. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very important advisory, and this would give you an idea that there is clear and present danger even now. Some doctors have been taken into custody. Several vehicles have been confiscated. 2,900 kilograms plus of ammonium nitrate has been recovered. But then there are still some doctors out at large. There are still some technical experts, paramedics, a part of a larger module. Remember, and I'll tell you that story in greater detail during the course of this broadcast, there's a diary and a notebook that's been recovered that has a long list of names. Some of those names are still not accounted for. Where are these elements? Are they waiting to strike at an opportune moment? And that is why if you have to get to the airport, ladies and gentlemen, keep an additional 3 hours before a scheduled departure of an international flight. The advisory has been issued to ensure that there are smooth security checks, that there is no panic at those barricades, the barriers and the security checks. Please avoid last-minute inconvenience. Keep time so that you board your flight or your train or your metro in view of this intensified security that's being put in place around major metro stations, railway stations, airports in and around Delhi. The Delhi police in its advisory says public cooperation is solicited to maintain safety and ensure seamless travel arrangements. I quickly want to cut across to my colleague Munish Pandey, who gets us more on the story. Munish, this is a very clear indication there is still clear and present danger. This is a live situation.
Absolutely, Gaurav, and this is not an advisory. This is not just an advisory. It is also the preparedness of Delhi police in regards to the present threat. Remember, Gaurav, why all these things are being done? Because the module has been busted, but there are individuals, there are persons of interest who are connected to this network. They are still absconding. The Jammu and Kashmir police, the Haryana police, the Delhi police, all of them are trying to search for those individuals, arrest those individuals, but they are still in hideout, and that is why there is a danger which is looming on the national capital. Now, what we have been given to understand by your sources within the intelligence agencies, Gaurav, is that they have been able to uncover the mask of this terror module. They have been able to arrest the key individuals, but there are others who are still absconding, like Mohammad. only one person at that point of time, Gaurav, was absconding who managed to come here where I'm standing at the Lal Killa, and he managed to trigger the bomb blast. So there shouldn't be any such mistake by any of the police department or agencies, and that is why there has been a very strict vigil in the national capital. When I was traveling around the city, I saw there are multiple checkpoints where the vehicles are going to be checked, and that is why this advisory has been given, so that at railway stations,
there is a reason
at
for
the
this.
airport, or even at the,
Yes, there's a reason for this, and the reason is that notebook, that diary that's been recovered from room number 13 and room number 4 of the Al-Falah University, and from that room in Dhoj where these suspected terrorists were hiding. So there are 2 notebooks, there are multiple papers that have been recovered that mention a list of names, and as of now, Munish, not every name has been accounted for.
Absolutely, Gaurav, and that is why, the NIA, the intelligence agency, they are still looking for those individuals. There is a Telegram channel which is active since 2019, and Dr. Umar, Dr. Muzammil, all of them were part of the same Telegram channel. So there are many more who are still to be unmasked by the agencies. And Gaurav, this is very serious in nature. There is a university which is supposed to teach, doctorate to the students. MBBS students were working there, doctors were working there, and in the same premises, there was a room where the conspiracy, where there was a planning which was being done by the same doctors, Dr. Umar Mohammed, Dr. Muzammil, and others who were in room number 13. This becomes extremely serious because no agency, no police, no common person, no one from the staff also can ever suspect that a conspiracy of a terror attack can be hatched in a room at a place where there is a hospital. So this becomes extremely serious. It was difficult for the agencies to uncover this particular module, to bust this module, but give it to Jammu and Kashmir police that they were not only able to bust, but they were able to avert a prominent, imminent danger, Gaurav, because it was 2,900 kilograms of explosive. And if at all they would have managed
kilograms
to
recovered, some
the
detonated
blast,
already, some recovered from that
dangerous.
room in Dhoj. You're absolutely right. This is very, very worrisome. Munish, stay with me. There's more breaking news coming in. These terrorists or suspected terrorists had access to multiple vehicles, and that second vehicle, so remember, one was that I-20 in which Dr. Muhammad Umar was traveling. Second was that Ford EcoSport, that red-colored Ford EcoSport that police issued an advisory about. That's the car you see on your television screen. There was an advisory, there was an apprehension that there could be more explosives in this car. That car was found at a location in Faridabad, hidden in some village. That vehicle, the National Security Guard bomb disposal team reached there, and now that vehicle is now being taken away for a detailed examination, and there will be detailed forensic examination to know whether there were explosives that were transported in that vehicle. I want to bring in Shreya Chatterjee for more on this. Shreya, what more can you tell us? Apparently, so far, we have information of 4 such vehicles. One was that I-20, one is this Ford, one was a Swift, and there's another car. Is there more clarity on whether all vehicles have been recovered, or there could be explosive-laden vehicles out there somewhere with these doctors of doom waiting to strike?
Well, Gaurav, all 4 cars the investigators suggest were to be turned and designed into death machines. So that's the reason we see the kind of caution that's being used the moment we see one by one these cars being traced down. 4 total cars, one I-20 registered in the name of Mohammadun Nabi, in fact owned by Mohammadun Nabi. The ownership wasn't transferred. That was used to do the blast. The second car, the red EcoSport, that was owned by Mohammadun Nabi. He is the man who used that car allegedly to transport ammonium nitrate. Investigators have confirmed to us. Apart from that, a Brezza that is just right now tracked down, that white Brezza that is registered in the name of Dr. Shaheen Shahid, and another Swift Desire that was initially for the first time traced down. That was also registered in the name of Dr. Shaheen Shahid, and it is from that car one assault rifle was also recovered. This investigators suspect that these cars were to be laden by explosives, and we've seen an example of one of that in that I-20. Investigators suspect that probably it was not a foolproof machine, but even then it took 12 lives. So we can only imagine the plan, the sinister plan that they were in, which the investigators are now calling a second phase of the operation when they were busted.
Okay. Stay with me, Munish and Shreya. Even as we speak, that Ford EcoSport is being towed away by investigators. My colleague Himanshu Mishra is there. He gets you this report.
गाड़ी को आप देखिए, टो करके जो तमाम अधिकारी हैं यहाँ पर, फरीदाबाद पुलिस के अधिकारी हैं, फॉरेंसिक एक्सपर्ट की पूरी टीम है। ये देखिए, ये आप जो गाड़ी देख रही हैं 0458, ये वो गाड़ी है जिसे अब ले करके यहाँ से जाया जा रहा है गांव से। आप देखिए, फॉरेंसिक टीम है, फरीदाबाद पुलिस है और सभी लोग साथ साथ हैं। इस गाड़ी को ले जाया जा रहा है। आगे भी अगर इसकी जांच करनी होगी तो जांच की जाएगी। और ये सीधी तस्वीरें खंडावली विलेज से हैं। इस बीच जितने भी अधिकारी हैं जो इस केस से जुड़े हैं वो भी यहाँ पर आए थे विजिट करने के लिए। तो 24 घंटे की जांच की बात आप देखें, ये पुलिस का पूरा काफिला है जो साथ में जा रहा है। पुलिस की टीम लगातार यहाँ पर मौजूद थी, जांच की जा रही थी।
So that red car has been recovered. The I-20 was used in the explosion. There is a Brezza. There's another Maruti Suzuki Swift, which was owned by that lady doctor of death, being described as Dr. Shaheen Shahid. A car registered in her name. There was an assault rifle, an AK-56 assault rifle, some explosives, some ammunition, some live cartridges recovered from that. Munish, so there is information of 4 vehicles as of now that is there in public domain that have been recovered. Do we have a longer list of the number of vehicles, and where were these people acquiring all these vehicles from? Is there a common link? Is there more clarity on how many more doctors, how many more members in their module, and how many are there at large?
The doctor of death, Umar Arnabi's role in the Delhi bombing is now confirmed. DNA tests have established that Dr. Umar was the bomber behind the deadly explosion that shook the capital. Just hours before the blast, new CCTV footage places Umar at a mosque in Old Delhi around 2:30 p.m. on November 10. He stayed for over 10 minutes, captured on camera, entering, praying, and then leaving.
Dr. Umar is also known as one of the most radicalized people in the gang. In fact, he cut off all contacts with others after he found out that Dr. Muzammil from Al-Falah University was arrested and the Faridabad module was busted. The fact that the red EcoSport was purchased by Dr. Umar, and he was the one who was coordinating and talking to a handler in Turkey.
Another video shows Umar behind the wheel of a white I-20, wearing a mask at a Badarpur toll. A large bag is visible on the back seat, believed to contain explosive that would later detonate. India Today tracks Umar's route before the blast. After the Faridabad module was busted, Umar fled to Firozpur Jhirka via Mewat, then returned to Delhi using the Delhi-Mumbai Expressway. He spent the night at a roadside dhaba, sleeping inside his car, before re-entering Delhi through Badarpur border. Hours later, his car was caught again, this time at Connaught Place, barely 3 kilometers from Parliament. The focus has now shifted to Umar's handler, Ukasa, based in Ankara, Turkey. Ukasa, Arabic for spider, allegedly used encrypted apps like Session to direct the operation and stay in contact with Umar and other radicals. With Umar's identity confirmed and his network exposed, investigators now say more doctors of death could still be in the terror web. With Arvind Ojha, Shreya Chatterjee and Milan Sharma, Bureau Report, India Today.
This is a live situation. Some of the terrorists or suspected terrorists could still be out there waiting to strike, and perhaps that's why an advisory has been issued by the Delhi police. Joining me now on the special broadcast is Yashovardhan Azad, former Special Director of India's Intelligence Bureau. Also with me is Major General Sanjay Meston. General Meston has served in counter-terror environments. And Mr. Azad, how would you read the advisory of the Delhi police saying keep at least 3 hours when you get to an airport, at least an hour plus 2 hours when you get to a railway station, and time when you get to a metro station? Does this indicate that there is still an apprehension that terrorists out there at large could still strike?
Absolutely. I mean, it means that there are advanced security drills to be made at all these venues, the public places. And in fact, Gaurav, when you were showing the cars and their traceability and how 4 cars have been traced now, the first car, you see, was used as a VBIED, I mean, vehicle-borne implosive explosive device. And you remember JM had used the same form of attack against J&K Assembly in 2001. So, and the kind of things which I've heard only on your channel, that recce was done of RSS office in Lucknow or some of these areas which have busy markets. So it really looks like the plan was to create a mayhem in a metro city by using these VBIDs only, vehicle borne. And that's why one vehicle belonged to that lady, that terrorist, and one belonged to Omar, and there are 2 more you've already located. And the other thing about this, the Delhi police circular which has been sent, extremely important. I hope the IB also has sent a circular to all the states, because the way you are coming out with information, the linkages would touch other states too. UP definitely.
It indeed is, and it's very alarming. You know, we are not putting out every bit of information that we have in public domain that we get from our sources. You're absolutely right. So you have doctors from Jammu and Kashmir, from Pulwama, from Tral, from Shopian, from Srinagar, who've been taken into custody. Doctors from Lucknow who've been taken into custody. Doctors who are operating in Kanpur who've been taken into custody. Doctors who are in Faridabad, Al-Falah hospital. And sir, General Meston, if I could bring you in for a quick moment before I get back to Mr. Azad, the fact that these people were planning it so meticulously, living in Faridabad, but traveling to Mewat, traveling to Nu, to buy ammonium nitrate, using multiple cars, going at different times, and different doctors going, then returning, then having a storehouse, a separate storage space, some 300 meters away from the main university, where some of the ammonium nitrate was stored. And there's a diary, there's an entire list with names and some codes. This is very alarming, General Meston.
Gaurav, absolutely. Firstly, it's a fantastic job being done by the NIA and the police authorities of various states, especially J&K and of course Delhi police and Haryana police and UP police. It's a job well done. Now, coming on to the question proper, I think these guys, highly educated doctors, they have done absolutely meticulous planning. And the fact of the matter is that going to Mewat and procuring all this ammonium nitrate, this shows, you know, that they were intelligent. And let me tell you, Gaurav, there is solid amount of local support. Nothing can be done without local support. And the issues which immediately strike anyone's mind is, number one, who's funding so much? You know, buying of 4 cars, and that too expensive cars like EcoSport. Number 2 is this procurement of ammonium nitrate. That also costs money, and how they've been able to get it. Again, it has been provisioned by the locals, and probably there is a factory running in Mewat which is producing this, because if you mix ammonia and nitric acid, it can also yield that, or it is a commercially available fertilizers. That is next point. The third point is, you know, the local support, tremendous amount of local support is there. And why I'm saying a good job being done by the NIA and all the investigative agencies is that every hour, Gaurav, so many things are being unraveled. The truth has to come out, and even the Turkey plan, you know, right from the start point, the handler to everything, I think we are doing a good job. Each minute we are getting some new updates, and I think
Which is very alarming. It's actually, Mr. Azad, it's a race against time to catch hold of this module, because Dr. Adil was taken into custody, Dr. Muzammil was taken into custody, Dr. Shaheen was taken into custody, Dr. Ansari was absconding, Dr. Umar was absconding, Dr. Umar managed to carry out the terror attack, Dr. Ansari was subsequently arrested, but we still do not know how many more doctors or paramedics or other members of this module may still be out there waiting to strike at a moment where they can cause maximum damage in our country to our people.
One of the main leads, which of course the security agencies must be looking at, is there's two Maulvis. Who are the people he has actually been radicalizing? How many people have attended? Because radicalization, mind you, Gaurav, takes a deep kind of indoctrination, and it takes time. So there must be people who must be more and more people who must be involved, and they certainly have to be tracked. Secondly, the other point is that after you've shown, it's horrifying. There are 4 vehicles being used in different manners. Maybe there are more vehicles to be used. Are there other cities like Lucknow where the RSS office was, wrecked? And then the other thing which is worrying me, Gaurav, is that if you see that Raisin module from Gujarat, in which the doctors were from Telangana, I mean, that would have caused even a more kind of an mayhem if that would mix with Temple Prasad. You can imagine the kind of social fallout it could have on national security. So I think there is a lot to go into with this, the linkages. And one important thing which General also mentioned, I must point that out, is that it's extremely important now to see on those encrypted messages what are the kind of directions they have so that we can look into those directions. Number two, also the kind of money, whether there is any cryptocurrency trail, because mind you, these fellows are
very
the
important
these
point,
people
sir.
had visited.
Very, very important point you raised there. Funding. In fact, that's another story we'll be breaking just in a moment from now. The Enforcement Directorate has now been roped in. From what my sources tell me, Union Home Minister Amit Shah held a meeting, and in that meeting, the Director of Enforcement Directorate was also called in to probe the financial aspect of this entire case. Somewhere we are told that the effort is to plug the gaps. Was this Hawala money? Was this cryptocurrency? Or was it money that was coming into an NGO for welfare? And I'll tell you something more about it in just a moment. We're just waiting for some more information to filter in. But breaking news coming in, breaking news coming in. The air ticket from Srinagar to Delhi found in the house of a doctor held from Saharanpur. This is a flight ticket that's been recovered from Dr. Adil Ahmed's house in Saharanpur, which showed that he travelled from Srinagar to Delhi on the 31st of October, days before the November 10 car explosion near Red Fort that killed. Sadly, the death toll has now gone up to 13 and injured at least 20. I want to bring in our reporters who are breaking this big story, but as I do that, so there is a longer list that seems to emerge, and Mr. Azad, this list, this back and fro, to and fro from Srinagar, back and forth from Srinagar again and again and again, that Maulvi Maulana Irfan of the Nauga Masjid has been taken into custody. Apparently, there is some information that will come out of there in just a while, because he was in touch with doctors over several years, and which would indicate that there are sleeper cells, not just in Delhi or in Haryana, in other parts of the country too.
In fact, Gaurav, one of the, that's why the point which I mentioned is that it's extremely important to ferret out all the details from him, as also from the mosque, which was visited by Dr. Umar just before the blast, where he was hanging around. It's quite possible there could be somebody there also whom he was sharing in confidence, and maybe that mosque could have been used for some purposes, which is extremely important. On the other hand, also from the other doctors, there has to be a rich minefield of information. The people around in the Al-Falah Institute who didn't report, who refused to, who just maintained silence and they stayed away. Was it because of fear? Was it because they remained, or they have seen? A lot of material is going to come out. By the way, the government has also cautioned the university for not using wrong, titles, and it has already come out in the papers. So I think a lot has to be looked into there also.
Indeed. India Today spoke to the administration at the university. General Meston, we are now being told the university claims they are getting no foreign funding, and they've said this on camera. They've said no foreign funds were received. They will cooperate entirely and completely with investigations, and they say whatever has happened, they claim universities had absolutely no role in it, not complicit. They were unaware. They will cooperate with investigations. But who were the doctors that this group was in touch with? I'm told there is a notebook, there is a diary, there are some papers recovered from room number 4, room number 13, and that other room, attached room outside the university, some 300 meters away, where the explosives were stored. That will give a lot of information. But if people had nothing to do with this, and they were in touch with these people, shouldn't those doctors come out on their own, volunteer information, join investigations, instead of reaching out to them, then arresting them, and then interrogating them? If they have nothing to do with it, then I think all those people must come out on their own, General Meston.
Yeah, absolutely, Gaurav. Firstly, Al-Falah University, if they claim they were not aware, I beg to differ, with their statements. Reason being, a security also has a security establishment, institution. They have a security establishment. Any entry, any exit from the university campus is noted by the security people. What were they doing? Explosives are going inside, weapons are going inside. That means the security people who are part of the Al-Falah University, they are being paid by them. They are accountable, and a lot of doctors are also accountable because they knew everything. And I think they have no choice. The Delhi police, Haryana police will get out all possible details. That is one. Secondly, the control has been from Turkey, Ankara, and this person, Osaka, I think Okasa,
Yes.
I think our people in agencies already, external agencies, they would be finding out who this person is. Obviously, it has to be a Jaish-e-Mohammad chap, and Turkey role is also possible. The third part is, Gaurav, I would also like to highlight this I-20 blast. Earlier, even I was thinking it's an accident or he was cornered. But now it is very clear why the crater was not made, because the bag was kept in the rear seat, which has been very evident. And therefore, because of the seat taking so much of blast, and I think that is why his limbs and legs, etc., would have been thrown forward because of the pressure of the blast. So that is the reason the crater has not been made. And next is, a very important lead is this person going to the masjid. He was there for 10 minutes. In Afghanistan, any suicide bomber who was tasked, he always used to be going to the masjid and then only doing. So he has gone to the masjid to be very firm that now so it was not an accident. Yes, he was cornered. He had no option, and therefore the last option was to do a suicide bombing, and this is what he has done. Earlier I was thinking, it is some remote control outside, someone wanted to kill him. So he was cornered, he had no choice, so masjid gave him motivation. And the fact of the matter is, then he stood outside, waiting in the parking area of the another masjid. That itself shows that he did not want to meet anyone, to change his mind. So his mind was very
first
firm.
it was the Turkman Gate Masjid, then the Sunehri Masjid, then that U-turn, and sadly, then the explosion. Mr. Azad, stay with me. General Meston, stay with me. This terror conspiracy has an address, and that address is room number 13, building number 17 at the Al-Falah University. So behind the doors of this room, inside the Al-Falah University, police believe this conspiracy to bomb Delhi was hatched. The plan was much bigger: target Delhi, multiple locations in Delhi, and simultaneously target multiple other cities. That was to be their signature act of terror, multi-city terror attack that would kill a large number of innocent Indians. This was more than just a meeting point. This was their mission room. This is where Dr. Muzammil Shakil of Pulwama and Dr. Umarun Nabi allegedly drafted this blueprint of the bombing that spanned states and had multiple elements and members from different parts of the country. For example, Dr. Shaheen actually comes from Uttar Pradesh, as does Dr. Ansari. So diaries have been recovered, digital drives have been recovered, some chemicals have been recovered, and that tells you a story of 2 years of planning. 2 years, ladies and gentlemen, 2 years of planning, years of indoctrination, and faith twisted into fury. From Pulwama to Delhi, from campus classrooms to the heart of the capital, the trail of terror began at that room number 13, room number 13.
Room number 13 in building number 17 in the Al-Falah University complex. It's the room where the alleged plot to make India bleed took shape. The room, which belonged to Dr. Muzammil Shakil Ganai of Pulwama, was the meeting point of the terror suspects. And it was here the police believe they conspired to execute the Delhi attack. Diaries, devices, pen drives, chemicals, digital data were recovered from the building, which are crucial to piecing together the interstate terror plot. Investigators have recovered diaries from Dr. Umar Nabi's room number 4 and Dr. Muzammil Ganai's room number 13. Sources say the diaries reveal that the planning was underway for 2 years. They show Dr. Muzammil, Dr. Umar and Adil Ahmed Rater are key conspirators. The diary also mentioned code words and dates November 8 and 12. The diaries contain names of around 25 people, mostly from Jammu and Kashmir and Faridabad. Amid the growing heat on the Faridabad University, a police team visited Al-Falah Okhla office.
जो दिल्ली पुलिस के साथ हरियाणा पुलिस की टीम पहुंची है, उसकी तस्वीरें हम आपको दिखा देते हैं। आप देख सकते हैं तस्वीरों में अभी भी पुलिस टीम मौजूद है। बता दें, जो अल-फलाह यूनिवर्सिटी है उसका हेडक्वार्टर यही जामिया नगर दिल्ली के ओखला इलाके में है और जो कैंपस है वो फरीदाबाद में है।
कोई भी रूम नंबर 13 से रिलेटेड हमारे से उन्होंने कोई चीज नहीं मांगी। हमारे से उन्होंने कुछ डॉक्यूमेंट्स मांगे थे, जैसे लैंड के डॉक्यूमेंट्स मांगे थे और उन्होंने बिल्डिंग से रिलेटेड डॉक्यूमेंट मांगे थे। ये तमाम डॉक्यूमेंट्स उनको हमने प्रोवाइड करा दिए।
The Enforcement Directorate has also been roped in to help the probe. The central agency will look into financial irregularities of Al-Falah University and those who are allegedly part of the terrorist act. And amid all of this, Al-Falah administration has taken down the university's website. Vishriya Chatterjee, Milan Sharma and Ashutosh Kumar, Bureau Report, India Today.
And I want to quickly bring in India Today, my colleague and friend Sandeep Punithan, who joins us with the latest on the investigation. Sandeep, you've been speaking to your sources, and this appears to be a much wider conspiracy to target India through multiple states and multiple modules. What have you been able to gather?
Well, Gaurav, very clearly it was not just one car, it wasn't one blast. What happened outside the Red Fort on the 10th of November was possibly a case of a terrorist losing his nerve and detonating the car bomb. But the larger plot, and this is where it gets really sinister, the larger plot appears to have been to detonate multiple car bombs, possibly either across India or definitely in the city of Delhi. And that is where it gets really worrisome, because as you know, Gaurav, a car bomb, a vehicle-borne IED as it's called, a VBIED, is the swiftest way to carry a large amount of explosives into crowded areas without arousing suspicion. Now, a sedan of the kind that the police have been recovering, a sedan can carry between 200 to 400 kgs of explosives. A truck, of course, can carry over a ton of explosives, but the sedan is the ideal vehicle to carry a large number of explosives into, towards landmarks, into near office buildings, populated areas, and that's the reason that they've been used for decades by terrorists to strike urban terror in the hearts of, fear in the hearts of people as vehicles for urban terrorism, and that appears to be the plan here. The Delhi bombers plan to inflict mayhem across the cities, and this is something that we haven't seen in a long time, Gaurav. It's been over a decade, probably 14 years since we last woke up to the, serial blasts across India. And this is a return of the Pakistan military's deep state activities across India. The use of cells, the use of VBIDs, all of these are a familiar playbook to us, Gaurav. We've been covering this for decades now, Pakistan-sponsored attacks. And these kind of attacks are certainly not the work of single idea, radicalized terrorist cells. These are part of a larger conspiracy. It's very clear. I'm sure the security agencies, they're already working on it to establish the links, the wider conspiracy.
This actually is a race against time for them because there are multiple cars that are still being searched. There are multiple individuals who are still unaccounted for. And Mr. Azad, which is what brings me to my next question. Now that the Enforcement Directorate has also been roped in, does this show the gravity and the magnitude of the action that's likely to follow once ED is roped in? It's not just the NIA, it's not just state police forces. The Enforcement Directorate in Jammu and Kashmir had ensured that stone pelting came to an end because they sucked out funds that was available to these elements.
Absolutely, and that's why I mentioned that after finding out the handlers, the next would be the source of funding. And we should look into all the aspects because this kind of a module, which was already ripe, it was ripe because all the collections and everything had been made and it was developing for the last 2 years. Obviously, a lot of money has already been spent in it. And I won't be surprised because the kind of the quantity which they have bought, the ammonium nitrate, in lakhs, obviously, that money has to come from somewhere. And we should look into the sources of whether it's the cryptocurrency. Why? Because you have talked about the handlers being from Turkey. That will be the safest route where nobody can even find that out. But, there are 2-3 more things which need to be done now. You need to catch the couriers, runners, sellers, dealers, and with that chemical signature, who exactly has also done it. And then after, as I'm glad Uni talked about that VBIED, which I was mentioning earlier, the cars, because you have mentioned 2 dates, November 8 and November 12. And what could be it's important to find out, was November 8 a failed attack? Was November 12 being planned as a particular area? Because this will give us a lot of information about how to proceed ahead. Because I'm sure, as Uni has said, that there were more cars being used and of the similar type which can blend into the background. The last point which I want to say, Gaurav, is now that you have shown the photograph, they have also, of course, taken down their website. Look at a place like this. You think with so much of frenetic activity, where everything was being collected from ammonium nitrate to the detonators, starters, timers, walkie-talkie sets, and people didn't know. I mean, I find it impossible. Indians being so nosy, they always like to know more about the others than their own home. And they will not get to know anything about this when there are so many people staying there. So the idea or the point which you mentioned earlier is correct. They should go to the hospital and say, we want voluntarily all the information to be given, because I'm sure there is a minefield of information which we can get from these centers, like whatever the University Al-Falah is called.
Oh, absolutely. Because General Meston, just join the dots. There was this Maulvi Irfan who was indoctrinating these doctors. I'm sure he was attempting to indoctrinate other doctors. That Maulvi is currently in custody. His interrogation. This lady doctor, Dr. Shaheen Shahid, she's in custody. Dr. Ansari, I'm told, is already talking to the Uttar Pradesh anti-terror squad. Dr. Adil, Dr. Muzammil, Dr. Tariq, I'm told, and there are several other doctors who've been called in for questioning. So by and large, there would be a fair picture, and we're putting out those names on your television screen, and these are people who've been taken into custody so far, except that Dr. Muhammad Umar, sadly escaped the net as it was closing in, and he carried out that attack. But Dr. Sajjad Malla, Dr. Ahmad Moinuddin Sayyed is in that Ryzen case. This would point to a very, very chilling fact where we would want to know who are the others who are still out there. How can they be nabbed before they carry out the next terror strike?
Yeah, absolutely, Gaurav. Large number of Maulvis Dr. Irfan and all, they have been very active to radicalize and indoctrinate the people. Now, mind you, the lead time is 2 years. Since last 2 years, they were doing this meticulous planning. So what does this indicate? This indicates that all over India, pan-India, I think many people and this network would have been radicalizing and recruiting more number of people, including, I would say, some women. This lady Shaheen, she would have also recruited more number of women. And therefore, with these 2 years, the local support garnered has been tremendous. And that is the reason that they have been able to procure this ammonium nitrate and these cars and the funding. So, you know, वो मैं बोलूँगा मतलब हिंदी में इनका वो पूरा मतलब ज़मीनी ये डट गए थे. They had everything. Local support was tremendous. Mind you, I think a good point emerged by Mr. Azad. This eco sport car, where was it parked? It was parked in a village in Faridabad.
No village.
Natural tendency for anyone is he parks his car close to his residence oblique place of where he is located. In this case, the car has been parked in a village and maybe in fields, and these locals are oblivious about this car. They have been seeing this car over a period of time, moving day in and day night and being parked here.
Unless this is silence of conspiracy and complicity, and that would be a cause for concern, Sandeep, if there are others who are complicit and still remain silent. The fact would also indicate this is a massive, massive failure of intelligence at multiple levels, Sandeep. And I want to draw in Dr. Azad into this, because if there's a conspiracy on for 2 years, it involves so many people across so many states, and yet no one got to know. It's very alarming, Sandeep.
Absolutely, Gaurav. And you know, we have to thank the Jammu and Kashmir police for the alacrity with which they cracked down on those posters the minute they saw them, and they started pulling the threads. And that is, this entire conspiracy was unraveled thanks to that alert police officer there in Jammu and Kashmir. And that's where we've seen the larger conspiracy. And as you mentioned, Gaurav, such logistics, planning, putting people in place, gathering explosives, timers, detonators, weapons, stockpiling all of this. This takes a lot of time, effort. There's a lot of people moving. And this is something that should have triggered off alarm bells a long time ago. So, while the security forces have done an outstanding job, the intelligence agencies have done an outstanding job in cracking down on this module, exposing it, and of course, investigating the larger conspiracy, questions must be asked about why this was not done over the last couple of years that this plot had, begun to take shape, Gaurav.
Mr. Azad, you want to weigh in on this? Because we were told that moment an information is shared between 3 people, it's no longer a secret. Then it has to go out. Here, it's more than 30 people, it seems.
2 points, very, very critical, and Sandeep has raised that point, the second point. First is, of course, in that if this module is being developed and absolutely so well being executed as if, it's some party, and so nobody has noticed it. And that's why the point which you talk about is, I hope it's not complicity. Complicity in silence or complicity in staying away, both are exactly the same. But Sandeep's 2 points are very critical. Now, after the seizure, this man leaves in panic at 7 o'clock in the morning, and India Today, in fact, showed the whole map where he was going and where he was loitering around. So after the recovery, and when an alert has been issued, Dr. Umar travels 60 kilometers unchecked by any of the nakas and comes to Delhi. That's one point which should be looked into. And the other is that while he was loitering around for almost hours and he parks it in the Red Fort, if you had an artificial intelligence-enabled smart control room, it should have detected it. In fact, it should have already detected it. So I think there are a lot of lessons to be learned from this, because in metros, you are not able to, just, stop traffic like this, because it creates a huge pileup. But you have to use these methods like the AI-enabled smart control systems to identify such ways.
Yes, face detection software on AI-enabled cameras. That's a very pertinent point. China has it. In fact, there was a report that it takes just 7 minutes for China to be able to detect people, especially in metros. Here for several hours, this man. But my question, sir, if I may, was this plot, according to the diary, was on for 2 years. 2 years is long enough. It's a multi-state operation. You know, meeting Dr. Shaheen, traveling with Dr. Shaheen roping in Dr. Ansari, you know, bringing in others into this. There are multiple elements who are involved, including those who are still out there. IB should have known, local intelligence should have known, somebody from the university should have known.
Well, you know, in such interstate operations, I totally agree with you. You see, at least the electronic signature or the electronic stamp should have been found. But unfortunately, you know, many of these encrypted platforms are still, you know, cannot be cracked. And since they are in bits and bits, that is why the trend is to have these interstate modules, because they are split into small sections. And that is why they escape detection. But nevertheless, I agree. In fact, the contact with Turkey, you know, something should have alerted. And I agree with Sandeep that I wish it was detected a little earlier.
Indeed, gentlemen, many thanks for joining me, because we will continue to discuss and debate this as more information filters in. I'll have much more on investigations coming up on India First at 8 p.m. tonight. But before that, I want to tell you more about this network. One that cuts across multiple states and multiple professions. It's not restricted just to a handful of doctors. It's now slowly unraveling. More information is coming out in public domain. So what began as an investigation into Delhi's 10/11 terror attack has now opened a dark chapter in India's war on radical Islamist terror. The focus is now on this highly educated white-collar terror module. Probe agencies have uncovered a web of radicalization stretching deep into the country's medical fraternity. Doctors who take an oath to save lives, at least some of these doctors, subject to all of this being proven in courts of law, were actually plotting to kill innocent Indians. And at the center of this sinister network, according to preliminary investigations by the police, is that lady doctor, Dr. Shaheen Shahid. She's a former medical topper. From a topper to a suspected terrorist. We get you more on her journey.
A terror network spanning many states, involving doctors, is unraveling bit by bit, day by day, after the Delhi 10/11 attack. Probe agencies are now focusing on how Dr. Shaheen Shahid, once a brilliant medical topper from Uttar Pradesh, came in contact with several Kashmiri doctors over the last decade and turned into a radical Islamist. Dr. Shaheen Shahid was married to Dr. Jafar Hayat. The two got divorced in 2015. After this, Shaheen became reclusive and distanced herself from family. She played a crucial role in allegedly bringing together terror operatives and establishing logistical networks in Haryana and Delhi. Shaheen then allegedly became the top commander of the Jaish-e-Mohammad's women's wing. It was in 2015 that Shaheen contacted Dr. Muzammil Ganai, a Pulwama-based doctor, who introduced her to Kashmiri students. After this, Shaheen came in contact with several Kashmiri students over the last decade. Sources in the Uttar Pradesh anti-terror squad claim Shaheen met with several suspects, including those who had visited Ayodhya Ram Temple. Investigative agencies are now probing who Dr. Shaheen met in Ayodhya and where she stayed in Ayodhya. Jammu and Kashmir police have been informed about her alleged visit to Lucknow. Neighbors of Dr. Shaheen and her brother, Dr. Parvez Ansari, are also being questioned. Uttar Pradesh anti-terror squad also detained Dr. Muhammad Arif, a cardiology student from Jammu and Kashmir, from Kanpur's Cardiology Institute, in connection with the Delhi blast case. Arif was reportedly in constant touch with Dr. Shaheen.
यहाँ पर ये अशोक नगर नियर फातिमा स्कूल कानपुर में जो है ये किराए पे रह रहे थे। इतनी जानकारी हम लोगों के रिकॉर्ड में है और यहाँ पर इनका चाल चलन सही था और कोई ऐसा नहीं था कि कोई संदिग्ध गतिविधि में शामिल लगते हो।
Counter-intelligence and police teams raided multiple locations across Kashmir on Friday. More doctors have been detained in the joint raids in Kazigund, Anantnag and Shopia. Another doctor from Kashmir, Dr. Nisarul Hassan, who was earlier dismissed for anti-national activities, has gone missing after Red Fort blast. Nisarul Hassan, who was working as Professor of General Medicine at the Al-Falah hospital, is allegedly the mastermind behind the terror plot. The suspected involvement of doctors in the conspiracy has exposed a disturbing transformation in the country's terror ecosystem. The incident marks a shift to a more insidious form of extremism, where educated professionals are being drawn into Pakistan-backed networks operating quietly from within Indian cities.
Doctors of Doom, because that's what we're going to call them. All four initially arrested by the Jammu and Kashmir police, Dr. Adil, Dr. Muzammil, Dr. Shahin Shahid, and one of that absconding, Dr. Umarun Nabi, who led that car and caused that dastardly terror attack at this very place, now unraveling a wider plot of more and more from the medical fraternity. We already know one Dr. Arif that's been nabbed from the area of Kanpur, and now subsequently what we're also learning that more and more names tumbling out from the medical fraternity under the radar of the National Investigative Agency. With video journalist Kripal Singh, this is Shreya Chatterjee for India Today.